What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very well. We are going to revisit the Farseer build. There were some recent buffs that came through from Blizzard on Shaman, particularly the Farseer build for Ellie Shaman, which is really, really good. And we're basically going to check them out. I tried to check them out on stream yesterday, and they weren't implemented yet. They weren't working. But bottom line is everything on Farseer has gone up. And it's something that I wanted to check out in Mythic Plus. We're going to show footage in a second here. And I'm going to do a comparison video between Farseer and Storm in a bit. Like, not in this video, in a different video. My suspicion is that the Storm video is still... the Storm build is still better than Farseer in AoE, like in a Mythic Plus environment. But there are some really cool buffs here that are not fully understood, I don't think, by everybody yet. So number one, your spenders going up by another 8% or 7% rather is pretty huge. Okay, that's a big deal. Chain lightning from your Farseers, lava burst from your Farseers up by 30% and 15%. Latent wisdom, which is what makes your ancestors spells do more damage, up by 5%, which is fine. This is the big one here. Routine communication is now up to 8% from 5. That's like a 40% increase, 35% increase in power right there. That basically enables a couple of other things to happen that was a shock to me. So I had been running what I'm calling like long Farseer. I had been running Heed My Call plus Latent Wisdom before these changes even came in. And it was nice. You got 10-second ancestors and they were doing 25% more damage. It was really, really good. Now I've switched to the RNG basically of routine communication plus ancient fellowship, which is the chance for the ancestors to, you know, come back after they disappear. What I found was in the keys that I've been running, first of all, the damage is actually fine, and the uptime in the ancestors is also better than I thought it was going to be. So on average, I'm getting between 44%, basically 40 to 50% is what I would say uptime on my ancestors. So they're basically up almost half the time that you're in combat. Like, you have a 50% chance to almost always have an ancestor with you during combat, which is pretty good. The other big thing was these Ellie Blast buffs. So when the ancestors expire, they cast an Ellie Blast and then they give you one of the buffs, right? The uptime on these Ellie Blast buffs is kind of insane. I didn't cast Ellie Blast once, and my uptime was 50% basically on all of the buffs. That is a really, really big bonus in my opinion. And then you get free damage from Ellie Blast as well, right? I got 2.3% more damage. So you should add that into the ancestors damage. Then suddenly they're doing, you know, 19, almost 20% of my damage if we include Ellie Blast. That's my top damage is from ancestors. They're also, of course, buffing Earthshock and Earthquake again by an additional 7%. So it's hard to quantify how good that is. But I was just impressed with the actual uptime on the ancestors because of the buff on routine communication, and of course, which follows with that is the buff to the mastery that you get, or whatever buff, the crit, the mastery, or the haste from Ellie Blast. And we're getting an additional bonus to those Ellie Blast bonuses because of Earthshatter, which is kind of crazy, right? So I'm never casting Ellie Blast once, and yet I'm getting the buffed version of these stat bonuses, which is really cool. So I'll show you what it looks like here in the key. Again, I'm going to do a comparison video later. My suspicion is that the Tempest build, the Stormbringer build, is still a little bit better in an AoE environment in Mythic Plus. However, my little caveat to this would be you have incredible prio damage with the Ancestor build, with Farseer. Because you just go, you know, Primordial Wave, Ancestral Swiftness, and then boom, you can just like funnel one target if you want to. So I think your boss damage is going to be a lot better with Farseer compared to Stormbringer. And I think that your like priority damage in an AoE pack is a little bit better as well, because you can just funnel down one person and your ancestors will follow your damage, right? So if you're doing some single target spells, funneling down one target, they can follow that with their own lava bursts. I mean, pack to pack damage was fine. I did like 4 million or something on the first pack. I'm doing 3.5 million on this pack. again, you're not reliant on proccing like a Tempest, right? You just have your ancestors up all the time every 30 seconds because of Primordial Wave and Ancestral Swiftness. Now, you are relying on a bit of RNG from routine communication. But again, my experience so far, having tested it in a few dungeons, has been that the uptime of your ancestors is pretty good. It's around 45 to 50%, maybe 40 to 50%. Sometimes you get really unlucky in some of the dungeons, but that's typically where it's at. The other really cool thing has been the cooldown reduction that you get from this node right here, Offering from Beyond. So because routine communication is buffed, this makes Offering from Beyond way better because you're constantly proccing ancestors, which means you're cooling down your Storm Elemental by 5 seconds every single time you do that. And watch my Storm Elemental cooldown. It's on 2 minutes right now. We're gonna see it drop again every time I'm casting. It's like Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Frost Shock, Ice Fury. There's one other spell. It's not your spenders. Any button but your spenders cools down your Storm Ellie. So again, my Storm Ellie was a 2-minute cooldown a couple seconds ago. Now it's a minute and a half, down to 124, 123, 122, and then we'll cast some spells here, and it's going to go down again. It's a surprising amount of CDR. I was really shocked by how much CDR it actually gave you. It is the only source of cooldown reduction now for your elementals. So, like, they got rid of it entirely on the tree. Flash of Lightning used to give it to you, and you used to get it from the bottom part of the tree with like Skybreakers, but those are gone. So you literally don't have any other source of cooldown reduction on your elementals except for in the Farseer tree, which is interesting. I'm not sure if it's worth like changing your build at all. In fact, I'm sure it's probably not. I'd have to experiment with it, but I don't think any of the talents in your tree should probably change. Like, I think you're still locked into your talents. But the reality is that you get a lot of CDR, and it means you get more casts of Storm Ellie, and having Storm Ellie up just means you have more haste, which is really good. What I am curious about is if there could be like a fire build where if you had big cooldown reduction on your fire elemental, would that matter at all? Probably not. Once again, I don't know. We'd have to see. I'd have to do some experimentation, but either way, having cooldown reduction on your elemental is a really big deal because you don't get it anywhere else now. So here's our boss damage. Not bad. It's not entirely boss damage, right? Because there are some ads, 1.45, but that's not bad at all. And then we pull a huge packer. You see my ancestor damage on the boss fight was huge, right? It was basically double any other damage that I had, which is awesome. We do a really big pull here. I've got Ascendance up. I am running 2-minute Ascendance. I want to make that really clear. I'm not running 3-minute Ascendance. I'm running 2-minute Ascendance. So I do double Liquid Magma Totem here. Oh, no, I only did one. Sorry. Into an Ascendance. Into like 5 Earthquake procs in a row. Absolutely disgusting. Maybe 6, actually. And then a bunch of Chain Lightnings to follow it up. And me and the Druid are popping off. He's going crazy. He must have had Incarn here. Yeah, I mean, the damage is just good. But pack to pack, the damage is good. And every 30 seconds, you're going to have these cooldowns. Every 30 seconds, you're going to have Ancestors. And it's going to be it's good damage every single time. So that's my favorite way to play this game, to be honest, is to play specs that have that 30-second window or even less, to be honest. But I really hate waiting for 2- and 3-minute cooldowns. So the fact that the way that this plays is really enjoyable to me. You don't have enormous bursts of up to like 10 or 12 million damage per second, which is like what a Destro Lock could do with like Infernal, if he had Infernal, like that kind of thing, right? In the MDI recently, we were seeing some Destro Locks pulling like 39, 40 million damage per second, which is not something that's definitely not necessarily achievable if you're not in the MDI. But that's the scale that they can go to, right? This is not that build. This build is every single pack, you know, you're doing 2 to 3 to 4 million. Sometimes you can spike up to 6 million if you're kind of lucky. With your procs, like your Ascendance procs in particular. But I like that style. I don't mind that at all. So it got a little messy here. We ended up dying a little bit. I'll show you the next pull. The next pull was really good for me. So I do have an orb here. I'm getting a little bit of extra damage from the orb. I want to be clear about that. But we run in here. I pop my orb to silence these guys. And then I have Ascendance plus Primordial Wave and Ancestral Swiftness. So I have 2 Ancestors out. Boom. And then as soon as they disappear, I get another one from just pressing Chain Lightning. Again, this is kind of what you get, that cadence, that uptime. 2 people die. We lose our ancestor again, but we get another one back here, I think, in just a second. Here's a big Stormkeeper. And yeah, the damage here is actually really good from us, which is awesome. And then once again, our damage starts to kind of dip down a bit. And then guess what? We get Primordial Wave Ancestral Swiftness back again. So we go round 2 and you just go right back into it and your damage spikes up again. We have 3 ancestors now inside of an Ascendance window, which is really good. It doesn't really matter that you're inside an Ascendance window for your ancestors, but I do have 3 ancestors alive right now. Back to 3. I went down to 2 and then back to 3 again. So that's the kind of, there, we went down to 1 and back to 2 again. So you can see like the cadence there. I had a master or a elemental blast buff this entire time. I've never not had an LE blast buff. We're back up to 2 ancestors again. You know, see the roller coaster of it, but it's really cool because you have the chance to spawn them with routine communication, and then every time they die, there's a chance that one will come back. So you can get this like, oh, they're here, they're coming back. And our damage is, of course, way higher than anybody else's right now because they died, not necessarily because this build is incredible, just because they died. But our damage here was substantial, and we completely cooled down our elemental. So let me just show that again really quickly. It's at 146 right now, and then we're going to start getting all these spawns of our ancestors, and it's just going to go down, right? 132, 117, 116, 15, 14. There's an Ascendance proc, 105, 104, 56, 53, 30. You know, it just goes down really quickly. And again, there's no other way to do that. So I really enjoy it. And I think that there's some benefits to this build. I'm not sure if it's going to be better than the Storm build. In fact, my suspicion is that it's not better than the Storm build in AoE, as I've been saying. But our overall damage was almost 1.8 million there. Our ancestor damage was our second highest. If you include Elemental Blast, as I said before, it becomes the highest damage that we have done. So it's not bad. It's not bad at all. The changes are really good. I like the kind of routine communication RNG thing, and then the cooldown reduction on your elemental is strong. Whether or not that could change your build at all, I don't know, because our talents down in the bottom of our tree are kind of locked, right? They're pretty much locked down. I don't think you can really change any of these things, especially in the bottom row. You can't grab like Echo the Elementals. You can't grab Primal Elementals, which is what I would really like to grab. Because if I have more uptime on my elemental, excuse me, I would really like to grab this so that my elementals are stronger and like more powerful there. But I just feel like I can't lose. Like I could try to get rid of Charge Conduit, I guess. That would be the only one that I could try and experiment with. And that might be something that we can look into. I'll try it in maybe a different video. But for now, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I think that this build could potentially be something. Certainly your single target damage has gone up for sure. Like in a Mythic Plus environment, in a raid environment, this build I think is going to be better than the Storm build. In a mass AoE environment, it's definitely not as good as the Stormbringer build, but there's some really cool caveats, right? Like having incredible uptime on your Elemental Blast buff is amazing, and cooldown reduction on your Storm LE is also really interesting. So I'm going to dig into this a little bit more. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Love y'all. I'll see you in the next one.